to get 300,000 H20 chip order from NVIDIA amid the China market boomed. Reuters reports that according to two resources with knowledge of the situation, NVIDIA has placed orders for a 300,000 H2 Blackwell chipset to TSMC. The order showed the high Chinese demand that pushed the U.S. chip giant to go beyond its current stock. The Trump administration gave NVIDIA permission to start selling H20 graphic processing units to China again, changing an April ban meant to stop the advanced AI chips from reaching Chinese market because of national security worries. NVIDIA made the H20 chip just for the Chinese market after U.S. export limits targeted its other AI chipsets in late 2023. The H20 has less computing power than NVIDIa's H100 or newer Blackwell series sold in other places. The new TSMC orders would add NVIDIA's current H20 stock of 600,000 to 700,000 chips, source said. To put this in a perspective, NVIDIA sold about 1 million H20 chips in 2024, based on research from SemiAnalysis after April's sales ban. So NVIDIA warns of the potential $5.5 billion inventories write-off and $15 billion in foregone sales. During a trip to Beijing this month, NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang said H20 order numbers would decide if production would start again, pointing out that targeting the supply chain going would take 9 months. After his visit, reports suggested NVIDIA told customers it had limited H20 stocks with no plans to start wafer production again soon. The company has requested that Chinese buyers submit new documentation, including order volume forecast from client. Despite competition from Huawei's less powerful alternatives, NVIDIA products remain popular in China, evidenced by the increased repair demand for advanced GPUs, many smuggled into the country. Another article. Taiwan cultivates the young overseas chip talent with summer camps university courses. The Taipei Reuters, dressed in a white protective suit and a face mask, Nicolas Chuez listened intently as a guide introduced a series of silver machines used in manufacturing Taiwan's cutting-edge semiconductors. 16-year-old was among students from 8 countries at the summer camp stage to raise interest in Taiwan's most vital industry amid a fast declining birth rate that could leave tens of thousands of critical jobs vacant. I myself really enjoyed playing video games, so I'm really just always using these semiconductor products, said Chu, whose parents enrolled him after he expressed interest. The camp, organized by U.S. chip design software firm Synopsys, is among several such events staged by chip companies and Taiwanese University in recent years as command for semiconductors which power most electrics and AI servers surged across the globe. But the first time this year, Synopsys, which has significant operation in Taiwan to be closer to the semiconductor supply chain, hosted the event both in Mandarin and English as Taiwan searched for overseas talent. There is an urgent need to strengthen STEM education from the early age, said Robert Reed, Synopsys Taiwan chairman, who believes that the camps can increase interest in the chip industry and help prime some of its future leaders. That is why we are launching this initiative in Taiwan. There is that where each strength in semiconductors meets the challenge of the demographic decline. Taken together, it's clear we must act here first. Given limitation hosted by Taiwan's aging population, Synopsys is also considering hosting camps internationally to spur interest in chip making and designing. He added, the company charged 3,000 Taiwanese dollars as $1,103 for the English versions and 10,900 Taiwanese dollars for Mandarin. Xue said the dual Belgian national who lives in Singapore said that he views semiconductors as an attractive career choice. I want to learn into it to some extent because I think it will be the crucial in the future of the AI. In the future with AI. The slumping birth rate, Taiwan, which has a population of around 23 million, holds outsized influence over the global semiconductor supply chain thanks to its chip companies such as Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, TSMC, the world's largest contract chip maker, and MediaTek and UMC. Any decline in the industry poses an existential threat to Taiwan, which faces the threat of invasion from Beijing and draws much of its global significance from the chip behemoth. But the job opening in the semiconductor sector have risen from the 1,901 in the second quarter of the 2020 to 33,725 in the same period in this year. According to the 104 Corporation, a local human resource firm, the industry is grappling with a shortage of both highly skilled professionals such as IC design and semiconductor R&D design engineers and the essential production staff, including operators and assembly technicians. Filling those jobs locally is become harder each year as Taiwan's annual number of births has dropped from over 210,000 in 2014 to around 135,000 in 2024. According to the government statistics, the STEM graduates have also fallen by around 15% in the period. Ministry of Education statistics showed growth in the Taiwanese semiconductor industry has been quite rapid, faster than what our schools can produce in terms of semi-engineering talent this year. Said Luan Huang is the chairman of the Vanguard International Semiconductor, a Taiwan-based chip maker affiliated with the TSMC. The future workforce. Last year, the National Taiwan University launched a global undergraduate semiconductor program for foreign students, which included Mandarin courses to help them to reach the proficiency they needed to stay and work in Taiwan. The program now enrolls over 40 students from more than 10 countries. TSMC also began looking forward foreign talent by throwing its weight behind a program in Germany, Saxony, Germany, Saxony State, which would send a German student to study for a semester at a Taiwanese university before interning at the SMC. The other initiatives are attempting to create interest among children as young as 10. Taiwan National Yang Ming Shao Tang University NYCU launched an outreach program in July, backed by TSMC, aimed at making chip science fun through the interactive teaching tools online games. The issues everyone is discussing now is where the future workforce will come from, said NYCU President Qin Hun Lin. If they are curious now, they won't reject it later, and some may even grow to like this kind of work. Okay. About this, NVIDIA rejected China's H20 GPU security concern amid a renewed US export controls. China questions NVIDIA H20 AI GPU security. Firm denies backdoor. Pictured NVIDIA's H100 GPU, image source NVIDIA. The China's cyberspace regulator has asked NVIDIA to clarify whether its H20 accelerator contains hidden tracking or backdoor functions. NVIDIA insists no such mechanism exists. The NVIDIA confirmed that cybersecurity is critically important and rejected the idea that any of its products provide remote access or control. The rebuttal came after the Cyberspace Administration of China, CAC, summoned the company to discuss potential risks to user data linked to the H20 artificial intelligence GPU. Beijing's concern is partly a response to the draft U.S. legislation that would oblige advanced chips sold abroad to report their location, a measure meant to prevent diversion to embargoed destinations. The episode unfolded shortly after the United States reversed to April suspension on H20 exports that had already been told to respect 2023 performance gaps. Technically, the H20 is a cut-down version of the H100 and unlikely fully restricted parts, lacks any hardware tracking module. Industry account note that the chip was designed expressly the Chinese market after the early U.S. control tightened. Analysts described how far China will push the metal. Tilly Zhang of the Gayvecker, the Dragonos Mix, argued that the government now sees NVIDIA hardware as the bargaining chips thanks to the stronger domestic alternatives, while the Charlie Chai of the 86 research expect mainly the symbolic pressure because most Chinese developers remain deeply invested in the NVIDIA's CUDA software stack. Despite the regulatory hurdles, including an ongoing antitrust investigation, local demand for NVIDIA accelerators remained robust. Reuters reporters sent an order for roughly 300,000 H20 units from the TSMC. Previous U.S. suppliers such as Micron have faced similar security reviews, underlining Beijing the broader strategies of leveraging such probes while domestic silicon mergers. Though for now, the CAC has not outlined concrete countermeasures. Absent a viable large-scale replacement, analysts expect China to keep the important NVIDIA's GPUs, albeit under the closer scrutiny, while accelerating investment in hometown. The accelerators from firms such as Huawei, Barin, and Cambrican. NVIDIA H20 GPUs reportedly caught up in the U.S. Commerce Department's worst export license backlog in the arrears. Billions of dollars worth of GPUs and the other products in the limbo due to the staffing cuts and communication issues. Officials claim this is the worst commercial backlog in over 30 years. Image credit as Andrew Harnick, Getty Images. In the latest blow to the NVIDIA's attempt to sell its H20 GPUs to China's firms, the U.S. Commerce Department stands accused of delaying the approval of the key export licenses that are required before the shipment can start. According to the officials contracted by the Reuters, this is the worst backlog of license applications in over 3 decades, leaving the billions of dollars worth of the GPUs and other products in limbo. A key component of the second Trump administration since its inception has been instability and global trade, on-again, off-again tariffs, and a third trade relationship between the long-time allies have been all too common. But few trading relationships have been as tumultuous as that between U.S. and China. Terse negotiations have been ongoing for months, and at the heart of each all lies China's access to their training and inference hardware, namely NVIDIA GPUs. Despite the attempt to limit China's access to the best GPU with consumer cards like the 5090D and a Double D, and the current cut down H200, known as H20, Americans and its companies will still want to sell to China. While in public, the administration talked in a big game, it's reportedly been quietly preventing the harsh actions against China from the Secretary Bureau of the Commerce Department, BIS, for months, and released restrictions on export last month. The looming delays in the Commerce Department approving the export licenses are now stalling the shipment of the hundreds of thousands of GPUs that China is trying to purchase, alongside the semiconductor manufacturing equipment and other projects. We are seeing the whole sectors where there is no movement of the indication if or when licenses will be issued, said Schoenstein, president of the U.S.-China Business Council. Part of this may be the micromanagement within the Commerce Department. Staff are allegedly critical of the BIS Undersecretary Jeffrey Kessler, who started the department in charge. Has allegedly urged staff to limit their direct communication with companies and industry officials and demanded that all meetings be entered into a central spreadsheet. It has also been difficult to pin down for his own meetings, according to Reuters sources. This is compounded by the continuous vacancies of the important positions with the Commerce Department, including China-based export control offices. This comes after the push for the retirement of the experienced officials as part of the DOGE program that the Trump administration's attitude toward the government spending and staffing, and this leaves the remaining staff unable to complete certain tasks or to give more concrete timeline on when outside issues will be rectified. This comes alongside with the Commerce Department outlining the major regulatory changes too. It announced in May it would rescind export the control put in place by the previous Biden administration, which targeted the subsidiary of the companies already banned from exporting to China. But that hasn't happened yet, leaving potential affected companies still unsure of how to proceed. All of this adds up to the major issue with even just finding out any kind of timeline for license approval. In 2023, the BIS reportedly took just 38 days to respond to license applications, but it's extending far beyond that in 2025. This could cause long impacts. This isn't a short-term issue either, it's one that risks bleeding into the medium and long term. Chinese companies will only wait to wait so long for orders before looking elsewhere. Sein claims that are already starting to deal with other suppliers, China and other countries. The U.S. risks losing those deals permanently if the companies find more reliable partners somewhere else. They could extend to other territories around the world too. Reuters quotes that the president of the Florida-based trade consultancy has having seen delays in license approval for radar and sonar systems to Latin American countries, as well as sporadic export application denial for shipping expensive manufacturing equipment. For affected companies, there's little they can seamlessly do to span the things alone and encourage the approval of their export licenses. If NVIDIA, the most valuable company in the world, can get its license approved on time, what hope does any elsewhere have? The situation raises further uncertainty for the traders and trade officials alike, especially since China is concerned that GPUs could have built-in trackers to throttle the sale and unauthorized export. All of this is not risk long-term U.S. business interest, but ongoing trade talks too. The Trump administration recently lifted restriction on shipping GPUs and other technologies to China as a fig leaf in a tariff discussion. If it turns out that these licenses are improved and the shipment can be made, and then offset China's counterpart and see the value of such trade diminishes as China looks everywhere else for each source of the high-end AI technology and hardware. The Intel issues a new warning. Intel shocked many market watchers last week. It reported a stagnant second quarter revenue of $12.9 billion compared to $12.8 billion this time last year, while it saw losses jump from $1.6 billion to $2.9 billion. In addition, the company said that capital expenditures, which was expected to hit $70 billion this year, would fall back to the $16 in 2026, and it needs to continue to make significant job cuts. It's currently looking to the shed around $20,000 position to this year, so staff numbers should be around 75,000 employees by the end of this year. In order to staff report time, the company's CEO, and over the past several years, the company invested in too much too soon without adequate demand, and the process our factory footprint become needlessly fragmented and are still utilized. In a warning that surprised many, Tan went on to say that the company 14A process would be only built if the company received confirmed customers' commitment. There is no more a blank tech check. Every investment must make economic sense, Tan said. That the statement certainly shocked some analysts of the proposed Intel might be forced to abandon its next generation of advanced technology entirely. Intel is dramatically scaling back in its chipmaker ambitions, has limited the halting work in the 14A, and the future load its product business would increasingly become reliant on a third party of the foundry, particularly TSMC. The technology being used to develop each 14A node comes from the ASML and each machine. In this case, the Chinese EXC 5000 and 5200 cost over the $38 million each. So Intel must be sure that there is a real demand for the node for spending so much money. So Intel is also consolidating chip packaging in large facility and is drawing the back-end policy of spreading operation globally for supply chain resilience. It also canceled planned for new factories in Germany and Poland, and has also delayed the commissioning of its Ohio fab, which was originally slated to open in 2025, and is now but it's now been pushed to back to 2030. The intersection of the crossroads 18A or 14A process node. While the Intel's 5 business is the elephant in the room, the company is showing some progress on other fronts. On the eve of the Intel second quarter 2025 earnings posted in the July 24th, the hardly anybody expected a turnaround story. As what industry watchers were keenly waiting for was a sense of the direction of the chip makers struggling contract manufacturing business. Intel's restructured plan was also in the spotlight as the Santa Clara, California-based company aimed to create a faster-moving and flatter and more eligible organizations. The earnings calls came with plenty of news. However, as well widely expected, the Intel's nascent fab businesses and its costly 18A process node stole much of the limelight. And former Intel CEO Pat Gelsinger has poured billions of dollars into a foundry business to compete with the TSMC with the 18A process node at the forefront of this highly ambitious initiative. A later story preceding this earnings call raised the question about the future of 18A manufacturing technology, and I quoted analysts pitching a potential write-down. It also pointed to the new Intel CEO's focus on the 18A process node. 18A or the 14A. The Liputan told analysts the Intel engineers that currently busy developing the next generation 14A process node, and the development is carried out in close collaboration with the external customers, and the tight is the collaboration with the external customers has been lacking. And in the case of the 18A process node, which is set to enter the high volume production in the late 2025. The Intel prepares for the Nova Lake CPUs with the new Linux support retiring 20-year-old Family 6 designation in favor of the Family 18. And for the first time in more than 2 decades, Intel is moving the fastest long-standing CPU classification system in favor of the new one. With Nova Lake, the company's next generation of the processors instead is signaling the end of the Family 6 era that has defined the next 86 processors since the late 19th. This change was unearthed as part of the Linux enablement Intel is doing for Nova Lake as we speak. The initial patch spotted in the Linux kernel mailing list by for Linux introduced Nova Lake under the brand new identifier Family 18. This marks a clean break from the legacy Family 6 framework, which has carried everything from the Pentium Pro to the Arrow Lake. The move requires significant refactoring in the kernel releases, ensuring the Linux code could adapt to the architectures beyond the Family 6. The updates are as the definition for the models Nova Lake. Family 18 is the Model 1 and the Nova Lake L. Family 18 is the Model 3, the latter likely denoting the low-power mobile variant. These earlier tools allow the future drive level patches covering the graphics and the power management and the scheduling to integrate it seamlessly once Nova Lake hardware lands in late 2026. This treatment is just naming the exercise like the company dropping an I branding of all its CPUs, and 2 years ago, and rather than Intel's segmentation strategies becoming the clearly Family 18 for the client CPUs, while the Family 19 will house next generation Xeon processors like Diamond Rapid. By splitting the desktop and server under distinct families, Intel aims to do simplified feature tracking and driver enablement across the platforms. Although these kernel patches don't reveal any hardware specs, they just add a simple identifier to the Linux kernel. The roadmap hit the aggressive performance target. Nova Lake is expected to double core count over Arrow Lake, with the rumored computation scaling up to the 16 performance cores, 32 efficiency cores, and 4 LPE cores, along with the new GPU based on the Xe4 through the architecture. There's also speculation that Nova Lake will span everything from the desktops and laptops to the emerging categories like gaming, handhelds, and Nova Lake 4AX, suggesting that Intel wanted to expand to the cover a broad range of use cases. With the Panther Lake expected to launch first and bring the Intel 18 to the market, likely under the Core Ultra 300 branding. The Nova Lake's debut is still a year, and the Intel's early enablement ensure that the Ubuntu 26.04 the LTS arrives. Linux users will have the full support baked in as something that has become an essential part of the Intel playbook. Thank you for your time and see you next time.